Welcome to the MamasteFit YouTube channel. In this 30-minute workout, we're going to be targeting the pelvic floor. And so we're going to be doing some mobility exercise and strengthening exercises to help strengthen and release each portion of your pelvic floor, not just deep squats and butterfly pose and not just Kegels. We're going to do so much more than that, and you're really going to feel like your pelvic floor can do so much more after this workout. Hey, my name is Gina. I'm a perinatal fitness trainer and birth doula and mom of four. And these are going to be all exercises that I personally use to help optimize my pelvic floor function. And so I'm running marathons and half marathons now after 4 kids with pelvic organ prolapse with no issues at all. In addition to, these are the exercises that I program for all of my prenatal and postpartum clients to keep them feeling really good throughout their pregnancies and in their motherhood journeys. And so in this workout, we're going to be doing exercises that stretch the front quadrants of the pelvic floor, that then strengthen those portions, that stretch the back quadrants of the pelvic floor and strengthen those portions. And so we're going to have really good pelvic balance after this workout is done. During the workout, I'm going to explain more of like our approach to the different portions of the pelvic floor and why we're doing certain types of movements and why the ones you may have been doing may not have been as beneficial as you think. And so for this workout, all we're going to need is 1 yoga block and 1 weight. That's about a medium weight heaviness for you. If you want to also grab like a bumper plate, that's like a light to medium weight for you, feel free, but you can also just use that 1 weight that you grabbed for the rest of the exercises. So once you gather your equipment, I'm going to go ahead and meet you on the floor for our first mobility exercise. For part 1 of our workout, we're going to be targeting the front quadrants of the pelvic floor. And so your pelvic floor attaches to the pelvis, and different pelvic positions are going to change the orientation of the pelvis and change the tension within the pelvic floor. So there's no one movement that is going to stretch your whole pelvic floor. There's no one movement that is going to strengthen the whole thing. We need a variety of different types of movements to help target each portion of the pelvic floor. It's really similar to how there's no one leg exercise that's going to strengthen your whole leg. We need to move the leg through a variety of different positions to strengthen the front of it, the back of it, the sides, the lower leg, and it's the same with your pelvic floor. And so to start, we're going to come into a lateral hip shift to target stretching the front quadrant of the pelvic floor. So legs will be a little bit wider than hip distance, and we're going to start by shifting our weight over towards the left. So I'm thinking about my right hip is trying to touch my left knee, and so I'm rotating my pelvis in that direction. After you've shifted over there, you can bring that right foot towards the left so that that right leg is a little bit more externally rotated. And then if we want to intensify it a little bit more, we can arch in the back just a tad, because when we find more of an arched position, the way that it moves the femur in the socket helps you to find a little bit more of an open hip position. So it's going to help to target that front quadrant of the pelvic floor more. So with me shifting towards my left leg, my right pelvic floor front quadrant is being stretched right now. And so we're feeling more of a stretch in like the groin and the inner thigh on the right side, probably a little bit more deep in the groin. If you want to move a little bit deeper, you can drop down to that right forearm so we have a little bit more of a twist. You can bring that left arm out to the side. And then we're just kind of breathing here. In about 5 seconds, we'll switch to do the left side and just pay attention if there's a difference. So now we're going to shift over towards the right. So we're targeting that right or that left inner thigh now. We can bring that left foot towards the right and then dropping down to the left forearm if you'd like, or you can keep more upright, finding that slight extension in the spine. Really thinking about that left hip is trying to move towards that right knee. So finding that extension here. And then again, if you want to come down to that left forearm, feel free. Right arm can reach out to the side. This just adds a little bit of a twist, which can really help your pelvis twist a little bit more towards that side. So we're feeling more of a left groin, inner thigh stretch here. And just note if this feels different than the right side or not. For me, my right front half of the pelvic floor is a little bit more overactive than the left, and so I typically feel it more on my right side, but you may feel it more on your left, you may feel it more on your right. So now we're gonna come into more of an inner thigh stretch, which is just gonna be a little bit different than the lateral hip shift where the knees are bent. So now we're gonna straighten in that right leg, coming down to the hands, and then we're just gonna shift our weight back towards the heels as much as you can. And we're gonna go forward and backwards in this. If you want, as you come down, you can drop the right forearm towards the floor to add a little bit of a twist, which again is gonna help to rotate that pelvis towards the left. So we're gonna rock forward and backwards in this adductor rock back. You may feel more of a stretch through kind of the entirety of the inner thigh as opposed to just the groin. So just a little different sensation. In the lateral hip shift, the knees were bent. In this adductor rock back, the leg is straight. So again, just slightly different muscle is being targeted. And then we're adding in a little bit of movement here. After this, we're gonna move to the other side, and then we're gonna come to a standing variation that is gonna incorporate the movement aspect in addition to a little bit more of like the groin and inner thigh. So if you want to target more of the front quadrant of the pelvic floor, maybe you're noticing a little bit more like bladder urgency, feeling like you need to pee all the time, let's go ahead and switch sides. If you're noticing like when you come down into a squat or a lunge, one hip feels more pinchy, so you have like hip impingement, this could be related to that right half of the pelvic floor, the front half of it, being much more active. So it's working a lot more. It's really pulling that hip into more internal rotation. Maybe you feel it more on the left side than the right side. And so these type of exercises are gonna help to release and offload that front half of the pelvic floor that might be really working hard. And you should find some relief from things like hip impingement or like that bladder urgency. Commonly, the right front half of the pelvic floor has more activity. It's a little bit more overactive than the left, but we're all individuals, so you may notice the left side feels more pinchy for you. So now we're gonna come to a standing position, and we're gonna do the lateral hip shift from a standing position. So legs are wider than hip distance, feet are parallel towards one another, and I'm gonna start by shifting my weight into my left hip. So I'm gonna be almost like sitting back into the left hip. So that left knee is a little bit more stacked over the ankle, and I'm sitting back into this hip. As I sit back, I'm thinking right hip is trying to rotate and touch the left knee. So those 2 points are coming closer, or I'm trying to drive them closer to one another so that I have that rotation in the pelvis. That rotation is what's gonna bring you deeper into that groin in into the inner thigh area of that right leg. So keeping weight in both big toes, so left foot and right foot, thinking trying to bring right hip and left knee closer together, feeling this big stretch in the right inner thigh. If you want to add a little bit of an arch in the back, feel free. This may make you feel a little bit better, make you feel a little bit deeper into it. And then after we do the right side, we're gonna go do the left side, and then we're gonna move into alternating from side to side. And if you wanna add a weight into that variation, you can, and I'll cue you when to do so. So again, we're just here thinking about offloading that right quadrant of the pelvic floor. So right now, the right front pelvic floor is being stretched here. And then let's move over to the left side. So I'm shifting my weight to the right leg. I'm sitting back into this right hip. Both weight in both big toes. I'm thinking drive this left pelvis towards right knee. So I have more of that left groin, left inner thigh stretch. And if I want to add a little bit of an extension, maybe a little bit more to the left side to become a little bit deeper, you can. And we're just holding here to feel this stretch happening, to feel this release. And then just notice, does it feel a little bit different than the other side? Maybe this side doesn't feel as intense. Maybe this side does feel more intense for you. 10 seconds, we're gonna come to alternating from side to side. If you wanna grab onto your weight, feel free. So if you wanna grab your weight, go ahead. You can also do this body weight. So we're gonna start by reaching towards the right foot to find that lateral hip shift. Switch hands with the weight and then shift over to the left. So we're essentially finding that same lateral hip shift movement, but we're alternating from side to side and switching the weight. The weight is gonna help you move a little bit deeper into the twist to bring you a little bit deeper into each hip as well. And you can play around with your hip distance. Maybe we bring the feet a little bit closer. Maybe you have to spread them out a little bit further. If you come towards your leg and you feel like your hip is like well beyond the ankle, so you're like way past it, we need to spread the feet out a little bit further. If you feel like you can't bring that knee over that leg without having to actually rotate, we need to bring the feet a little bit closer. So now we're gonna move into some strengthening exercises to help target the anterior quadrant of the pelvic floor. And we wanna think about one-sided exercises that prompt more of an open hip position. So the leg is moving away from midline. And so we'll start with this all fours knee lift. We're gonna place the knee onto a yoga block, shift my weight over, and I'm gonna be kind of lifting my leg up and down here. So go ahead and drive that left hip up towards the ceiling and then back down. So you can almost imagine there's like a foam roller between your thighs and you're just kind of like rolling the foam roller up and then rolling it back down. When I come all the way up, my knee that's on the yoga block, which is my right leg, is in a more open hip position. So it's pulling this hip more open. And when I drop it down, it's in a closed hip. So I'm kind of moving it through a full range of motion. If you want to add a little bit more, as you come up, you can think open up and that left hip, bring the legs back together, and then drive back down. So you'll come all the way up, open up, bring it back down, and then go. And then we're gonna do this variation in a standing version with a bumper plate after we get back up. But we want to introduce it here on the floor. So now let's come to the left knee on the block. We're going to drive up and down. So as we come up, that left hip is in a more open position. As we go down, it's in more of a closed hip position. In just about 10 seconds, we'll come to do that open all the way variation. So we first just want to feel the pelvis changing its position in relation to the femur. So go ahead and open up all the way at the top, legs back together, drive down, come up, open up at the top, legs back together. So just introducing this movement here, so when we come to the standing variation, we're already kind of got some of the mechanics down. And you should really feel like that left glute or whichever leg is on that elevated block is really starting to fire a little bit. So now let's come to that standing position. So with the standing variation, if you want to grab onto the plate, you're just going to put it by the knee. You can also do this without it. So we're going to come into a slight hinge. I like to put my hand against a wall or something supportive. And we're going to start by bringing the left knee down, so I'm standing on my right leg, and then I'm going to drive that left hip up and then open at the top. So we're going to find that shift. So I'll show you without the plate first. We're going to find that shift, bring that knee up and then open, bring the knees together, drive that knee down, and then back up. So we're finding that closed hip position on the left. Find that open hip and then open up at the top. So you can take your plate now, place it on that, and then find, or you can do it without a weight too. You should really feel like that right glute or that standing leg glute is really firing. So open up, and then you may feel like the lifted glute is also starting to fire a little bit too. It's a pretty slow movement. Now let's go ahead and do the other side. So just so you can see it from the other side, I'm putting weight into my left foot. I'm gonna say drive that right knee down towards the floor, drive it up, and then I'm gonna open in that leg. Bring the knees back together, find that closed hip, and then back up. So imagine there's that foam roller. I'm rolling the leg up and down, and then I open in that top hip position. So it's kind of like two things together. So closed hip, open, and then open all the way. Closed hip, open hip, and then spread the knees. So we have some pelvic rotation happening here with some hip external rotation. So we're kind of combining these two together. So now to finish up with strengthening the anterior portion of the pelvic floor, we want to think about exercises that target the quads and more of the glutes. So these are going to be more of our upright exercises. If I hold a weight on the same side, known as ipsilateral, this is also going to bias a little bit more external rotation, which is really helpful for the anterior portion of the pelvic floor. So we're going to stagger the stance. We're going to do a B stance squat. Weight is in that same hand. Inhale to lower down, and then exhale to stand up. So I have the weight in the same side as that front hand. I have more of an upright torso position, which is going to help to target the quads a little bit more. At the top, I could also really emphasize an open hip position. So inhale, more neutral. Exhale, really emphasize that open hip. So if we're thinking more of the front half of the pelvic floor, for each quadrant in the front, we're thinking more external rotation, more open, more of those like one-sided movements that the legs are spreading or more wide. Let's go ahead and switch to the other side. So bring that weight into the opposite hand. Exhale, come up, maybe slight rotation open at the top, and then back down. So if I was thinking of the front half of the pelvic floor, the stretches are typically like deep squats, butterfly pose, wide leg positions. The strengthening movements are going to be my squats, my wide leg, my quad and glute exercises. But we can support pelvic balance by thinking about each quadrant with these one-sided movements, because you might notice that the left versus the right might feel a little bit different. And so it's really helpful to have the one-sided exercises in there, because we can add so much more pelvic rotation, so much more movement within the pelvic floor and with the hip musculature. So now let's move on to the posterior portion of the pelvic floor. So the front half was all more open hip positions. The back half is more closed hip positions. And we're gonna start with an all fours hip shift. So with the all fours hip shift, you're gonna grab onto your yoga block. And I want you to be like right next to a wall. So I'm using a block here just to be able to demo it. So I have my left knee on a yoga block, right knee is all the way by that wall. I'm gonna shift my weight over towards the left as I actively press through this right knee. So not my right hip, my right knee. And so hopefully you can see that the angle here in this femur and pelvis is less than 90 degrees. This is a closed angle, while the angle here is greater than 90 degrees. So this hip is more open. You should feel like the right glute is firing a little bit more, and this hip is more closed. So you may feel more of a stretch in this deep hip pocket. The next thing that we can do is we can add a little bit of a tuck underneath, which is gonna bring you a little bit deeper into that left hip pocket. So in about 15 seconds, we'll switch to come do the right side. And if you're like, I don't really feel much in it, really think press through that right knee, and it'll move you a little bit deeper into this hip. Let's go ahead and switch to the other side now. So right knee is on the block. I'm gonna press my left knee into the wall to shift me over to the right side. I'm thinking this hip, I'm feeling more of a deep stretch. The left glute, I'm feeling fire a little bit more, which is gonna move me deeper. And then maybe a slight tuck within the pelvis to really bring us into that back portion of the pelvic floor. So all of that extension changed the femur position to really target the anterior portion. More of a tuck or a round is gonna bring us into more of the back half of the pelvic floor, making that internal rotation easier. After this, we're gonna come to a standing position to do these hip shifts, and you may feel it a little bit more in the standing variation. All right, so let's come to a standing position. I'm gonna place my left foot onto the yoga block. And so this is going to target that left posterior quadrant. We can start with the hands out in front. We're gonna open up like a book to the left, and then we're just gonna tip forward like 45 degrees. So I'm not all the way down here. I'm not trying to touch my toes. It's kind of like in between those two. Start by putting a lot of weight into that left big toe. Left knee maybe rotates in. If you're feeling tons of hamstring, just bend in that left knee a tad. Something else that we're thinking about here, similar to the lateral hip shift, I'm thinking my right hip and left knee, I'm trying to touch them together to one another. And when we really have that rotation, it's gonna bring you deeper into that hip pocket. So I'm trying to feel it like where my jean pockets would be. And then there's slight tuck underneath. And then just play around with the weight shifting. So I want most of my weight to be in that elevated foot. Really thinking about driving that right pelvis towards the left knee without the left knee flailing out. We're gonna switch over to the right here in a little bit, and then we're gonna alternate from side to side, similar to the lateral hip shift, but there won't be any weight. So now let's do the right side. So I'm putting weight into that right foot, open up towards the right. Gonna tip forward 45 degrees, so I'm not trying to touch my toes. Lots of weight in that right big toe. Right knee is kind of rotating in. And then I'm thinking left hip to right knee. So I'm trying to touch those 2 points together. Almost all of my weight is in my right leg. So if I wanted to lift my left foot off the floor, I could. Think slight tuck underneath. And then just play around with where should you shift your weight? Can you keep weight in that big toe? Can you still think trying to bring those 2 points together? Trying to feel that stretch and kind of that hip pocket area, so where your jeans pockets would be. Let's go ahead and place that block to the side, and now we're gonna have more of an even stance, and we're gonna shift to the left and then alternate to shift to the right. So the opposite knee is going to drive forward as you put your weight into the opposite leg. So weights in my left leg, right knee drives forward to help rotate the pelvis. Weights in my right leg, left knee drives forward to rotate my left hip towards my right knee. And we're just kind of switching sides. So feeling the stretch in those hip pocket areas for each leg you shift your weight into. The first time you do this might be super confusing where you're I don't really know if I feel it. I would highly recommend spending time in a hip shift and exploring the movement so you can feel it in your body, because it's gonna help so much with relieving tailbone pain, lower back pain, SI joint pain. It's just such a good exercise. All right, so now that we've done the releases for the back portion of the pelvic floor, let's do the strengthening movements. And to strengthen the back half, we want to think about muscles that help to pull the hip into more internal rotation, which is going to be your inner thighs and your hamstring muscles. So we can start with an adductor side plank. I'm going to take a yoga block, place it down, and then I'm going to start in this kind of 90-90 position, placing that back leg on the block. and then come onto your side. We're gonna think press through that knee to come into the side plank, and then the leg that's down on the floor, you can either just have it be there for some support, you can pulse the leg, you can totally hover it off the floor, or if you have your bumper plate nearby, you can add in some pulses with the bumper plate as well. So we're thinking about strengthening the inner thigh musculature here. You can also do like a Copenhagen plank where the leg is on like a bench or something as well, depending on like what feels accessible to you. I just find like these side planks and the Copenhagen plank are just some of the best ways to strengthen that inner thigh musculature. Let's go ahead and switch to the other side. So we'll start again in that 90-90 position. Take that yoga block, place it underneath that back leg, and then you'll come onto your side. And then if you want, you can use that bumper plate on the forward leg, but choose whatever variation feels best for you. So go ahead and lift the hips up, and then you can either pulse, you can just keep that leg on the floor and just hold an isometric hold. You could add the little bit of weight. But really think about driving through that knee that's on the block. So we want that inner thigh to really be targeted here. If you're pulsing, the bottom leg's inner thigh is also gonna be working a little bit too. But the inner thighs work with the hamstrings to pull your pelvis and your hips into internal rotation, which is gonna help to stretch the back half of the pelvic floor. And so doing this is going to help to strengthen as well. Because our muscles only have the ability to pull, not push. And so if we want to target the back half, we need to be thinking about, okay, well, what exercises are gonna help me do that? Let's go ahead and release, and now we're gonna come to our final movement, which is gonna be our staggered stance RDL. So this is gonna be our hamstring focused movement to help support pelvic floor balance, particularly in the back half. So we're gonna go ahead and grab on to our weight, and we're gonna do an or a contralateral hold. So I'm gonna hold the weight in the opposite hand. So I have weight into my left leg, weights in the right hand. I'm gonna inhale to lower down and then exhale to stand up. As I lower down, I'm kind of reaching for the floor and having a little bit of rotation in my upper body. So I have more of a closed hip position as I go down, and then exhale to come on up. So inhale to lower, exhale to stand up, adding in a little bit of that rotation. And now with hinges, my hips are going behind me, not to the floor like a squat. So if I had a flashlight on my butt, it's shining the wall behind me, not the floor below me. And let's go ahead and switch sides to finish up. Adding a little bit of that twist as you lower. This is helping to bring more length to that glute, so we're bringing more stretch into the back half. And then exhale as we stand up. It's gonna help to shorten it more. So pelvic floor work is more than just stretches. It's more than just squeezing it as tight as you can. It's a good incorporation of one-sided movements to target each quadrant that include mobility to help improve how well our pelvis can move, that include strengthening so that we can change the pelvic position. And all of this is gonna help to support pelvic balance. Go ahead and place your weight down. And this concludes our non-traditional pelvic floor workout. So we incorporated exercises that we're gonna target each quadrant of the pelvic floor, because there's no one movement that's going to stretch your whole pelvic floor. There's no one movement that's going to strengthen your whole pelvic floor. We have to do more than just deep squats and butterfly pose to stretch the pelvic floor, and we have to do way more than just squeezing the pelvic floor. Because as you can see, different hip positions and different spine and pelvic positions impacted what parts of the pelvic floor were being stretched. And so for squeezing our pelvic floor, all in a very extended position all of the time, we're not going to be focusing on all portions of our pelvic floor. And so we want to think about a variety of hip movement to help improve pelvic mobility, hip mobility, and tons of different strengthening. And so if you want workouts to help support you with more than just pregnancy-safe exercises or tons of Kegels, check out our prenatal fitness programs, our postpartum fitness programs, and our beyond postpartum fitness program to help support you throughout your entire motherhood journey. Our workouts are going to include exercises like these and so much more to help your pelvic floor feel balanced, to help have your entire body feel strong. And we offer our programs both as self-paced traditional workouts with a list of exercise and demo videos, and follow along videos if you prefer that way to work out. So you can check out all of our programs, our website at MamasteFit.com, and use code YouTube10 to get 10% off any of our online offerings. And if you like this workout, be sure to subscribe to our channel, because we release new workout videos every Tuesday, new educational videos every Wednesday, so that you can feel confident and comfortable navigating your entire motherhood journey.